Hello and welcome. My name is Meepolis, she, they, and this is Literally Graphic. And today we are looking at Black Canary Ignite by Meg Cabot and Cara McGee. A title I initially, before seeing it, thought was part of the DC Ink line of young adult titles, but was actually part of the DC Zoom middle grade initiative, which has since been rolled into DC graphic novels for kids, which is more to the point, I guess. Content notes for her dad is a cop, stalker, and being sent away from home. Apparently, Meg Cabot is the writer also of the Princess Diary series, also the Mediator series, and Avalon High. Artist Cara McGee graduated with a BA from SCAD's sequential art program. She has also worked on Boom Box's Dodge City title. What keywords came to mind reading this volume? Girl power, friendship, school, legacy, coming of age, and colorful. A very short and fast read, Ignite is the story of Dinah Lance, 13 years old, and how suddenly everything starts breaking whenever she gets emotional. She also wants to join a junior police force, but her cop dad won't let her. Bad guy starts stalking Dinah. Adults finally admit to Dinah that she has superpowers. And of course, her friends want to win the Battle of the Bands. Scrolling through the reviews people have left on Goodreads, as I am wont to do, the most talked about theme appears to be female empowerment. While I don't disagree, that was also heavily tainted with propaganda. So yeah, as far as wordiness goes, the dialogue was laid out very well across the pages, and Cabot seems to have successfully avoided language that either is already dated or is likely to become dated quickly, which has been an issue for some of the other geared for younger readers DC titles. There was one line in particular that is sticking with me, namely when V says, "Normal isn't a therapeutically beneficial term," which did warm my heart. The art for this volume was pretty fun and enjoyable to look at, in my opinion, especially in the context of a kid's comic, because this is definitely a kid's comic. Not all ages. Obviously, plenty of people read and enjoy kids' comics, but there are certain limitations I do feel you need to expect and not necessarily judge the book for. The plot is also simple in a way that didn't particularly excite me, but that's not what docked the stars for me. What was the most frustrating thing about this book, and its target audience only makes it worse, is its obsession with cops. Honestly, I had forgotten that Dinah's dad is canonically a cop, but I swear it generally doesn't come up with more classic Canary stuff. And beyond the way I feel about this propaganda, it also makes the story feel so much more like a knockoff Batgirl book, but blonde and with a mom. They even kept bringing up that, quote, "crime wasn't as bad back in my day," end quote, which is such BS. At least in the real world. Of course, maybe it's true in Gotham. But the only reason we think crime is so much worse in our lives now is because of how many cop procedurals and true crime shows / podcasts / movies, etc. we watch. Looking at the breakdown of things intersectionally, the female representation is pretty good. There's a lot of characters who read as women, but they have a lot of different ways of expressing that gender. The plotline also has a fairly subtle way of breaking through many of the ways that women are told not to be so emotional or loud or anything really. Sexual diversity isn't really touched on. Adults in relationships mostly boil down to Dinah's married father and mother. That said, there are a lot of adults who are, as far as we know, unattached, which help the heteronormativity feel slightly less overwhelming. Although I was a bit annoyed that the guy who's been calling Dinah and company freaks throughout the book turns out to be in a band called the Green Arrows, which seemed to suggest some of my least favorite heterosexual tropes, but I think his name was Steve. So probably just someone trying to do a tie-in. At most, maybe another band member is Oliver Queen. Racial diversity could have probably been pushed a bit further, considering I believe both of Dinah's BFFs are new characters for this book. There seems to have been some effort to draw racially diverse background characters, which is more than many comics do, so there's that. Everyone seems to be able-bodied or super able-bodied, minus some glasses rep. Circling back to how I would rate this comic, there's a lot of not-for-me stuff that I tried not to get too hung up on. It mostly came down to my annoyance with the superhero's dad is a cop trope. I'm not saying that superheroes aren't just cops themselves either, but it made the story feel more generic and was generally annoying. 2 out of 5 stars. Bye y'all, keep reading and resist white supremacy. And as always, Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.